everyone, welcome back to the Goods YouTube channel. My name is Caroline and I'm Director of Marketing. I am hopping on here today to talk to you a little bit about product recommendations. So if you're an e-commerce brand owner or team lead in charge of your e-commerce website, you're gonna wanna listen into this one. I think that we all know that product recommendations can be a really crucial deciding factor for customers. We have read studies, we know from our customers that often the main reason for purchase or for finding a brand is through word of mouth, a recommendation from a friend, a rave review from an influencer, a recommendation from someone in a store that you then go online to look for the product. There's a ton of different ways that product recommendations work in the wild, but I want to tell you, as an e-commerce store owner or team manager, you don't have to wait for someone else to recommend your product to your customers. You can actually build a system on your website that delivers product recommendations to them online. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. Stay tuned in for all the details and tips that we have. All right, so what do I mean when I say you don't have to rely on product recommendations coming from that word of mouth source like celebrity endorsements or friends or influencers, and instead you can recommend the products to your own customers? That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about how product recommendation engines work, how you can build one that runs 24/7 on your site and delivers personalized recommendations, so offers a really great customer experience that makes you more money in the process. And I'm also going to share probably between 5 to 7 tips, depending on how much time we have, on how you can make the most of those product recommendations on your website. And if you have interest in diving more into this topic, I'm going to link in the description of this video a blog that we have on our website with over 20 product recommendation tips. So make sure to check that out. All right, so first let's establish what even is a product recommendation engine. And that is a piece of technology that displays recommended products to shoppers throughout your store. And it does that using machine learning to get smarter and smarter and show increasingly relevant products to shoppers based on their interests and previous browsing behaviors. Now, you might be wondering, well, I already implement also liked recommendations on my e-commerce site, so this probably isn't relevant to me, but in general, we would recommend a product recommendation engine to make sure that you're making the most of this tool for your e-commerce website. So there are 3 basic methods that you can use to configure the underlying algorithm. The first is the content-based filtering method. It analyzes data that's collected from cookies across multiple site visits on the customers to understand what they like or dislike and recommend products accordingly. Think of it sort of like Pandora or a similar music platform. If you're constantly disliking down-tempo jazz music, for example, it's going to take that into consideration in what it recommends as the next song that it play for you. And in a similar way, the content-based filtering method on an e-commerce website would recommend products to a customer based on products they have liked in the past. The next method for configuring the algorithm is the collaborative filtering method, and that takes into consideration what someone with similar likes to you has and recommends products accordingly. So think of it this way. If customer A purchases a certain line of products always, and customer B purchases that same line of products and also a different line of products, you might recommend that second line of products to customer A, knowing that they have similar likes. The third and final method for configuring the underlying algorithm is the hybrid method. So it takes both the content-based filtering method and the collaborative filtering method and combines the two. So a good example of this, going back to music, is Spotify's Discover Weekly playlists. So taking into account what you like, it might recommend you songs based on the music that you've specifically highlighted, and then also recommend you songs based on what other people who listen to those songs enjoy as well or listen to as well. Basically, Spotify is aggregating data based on your listening habits and the listening habits of other users and combining that to provide you with a custom playlist. So, all three of these methods use machine learning algorithms to fuel the process and provide personalized product recommendations on e commerce sites. And while the principles behind them are elaborate and maybe a little bit complicated, the application to your online store doesn't have to be that way. So, I'm going to share a graphic here that sort of gives an overview of the collaborative filtering method, and you can see how what customer A buys and what customer B buys might overlap and then influence the product recommendations accordingly. So I know that's a lot to take in, but it's really important to understand how this works to then understand what might influence how you implement this on your actual e-commerce site. And just keep in mind, it'll all be worth it because the product recommendations not only lift conversion rates, but they also deliver a better user experience, which means visitors are going to keep coming back to your site and be more engaged with your content. All right, so now I want to talk specifically about product recommendation tips, and these are all things we've seen in our decade plus of work with e-commerce brands optimizing conversion rates. So some of them might lend well to your personal e-commerce sites, some of them might not, but pick and choose what works best for you, and you'll have a really great product recommendation strategy. So the first tip is display products based on browsing history. So this is a pretty common product recommendation strategy, but one that works well, is displaying products based on visitors' browsing history, and recommended for you or recommended just for you is a typical way that you might see this displayed on an e-commerce site. You can actually add an even deeper impact by adding a shopper's name. So for example, if I was on a beauty website and they knew based on my browsing history that I was looking at certain types of hair care products, they might say recommended just for Caroline with a selection of specific hair care products that are relevant to things I've looked at on their site before. Here's a good example I'll show on the screen of a beauty brand that recommends based on skin type or eye color, and you can see how they use that recommended just for you product recommendation phrasing. The next product recommendation strategy that we suggest is using frequently bought together recommendations. So think about if customers often visit your site and purchase, a phone and a phone case at the same time, then you can make product recommendations based on that information. And not only is that a great customer experience, because who wants to buy a phone without a phone case, but it's also a way to boost your AOV. So not only are you potentially increasing conversion rates, but you're also increasing another key performance indicator for your brand. Another great way to implement product recommendation strategy is to use the engine on your e-commerce website to personalize your email marketing campaigns. So you no longer have to send out a big blast to your audience about, mascara or skincare products. Instead, you can actually personalize that the same way that we were talking about in tip number 1. So you can, if you know that a customer is browsing certain areas of your website, you can then send them custom product recommendations in an email marketing campaign. And that's going to deliver just so much of a better customer experience and also increase your email click-through rates, open rates, etc. Another great way to leverage product recommendations is to feature new or introduce new items to your customers. So while someone might know you offer backpacks, they might not know that you also offer luggage or suitcases. And this is a great inspiration method for customers that don't necessarily know what you always keep in stock or what they're really looking for from your brand. Another great way to leverage product recommendations is to showcase a user's browsing history, and this could help you save potentially lost sales. So if a customer saw a blouse that they loved a few minutes ago, displaying that at the end of the page might help them remember and then click back in and add it to their cart. The last thing you want a customer to do is to leave your site just because they can't find the item that they were previously looking at, and they were ready to add it to their cart, but now they can't find it. Another interesting way to display product recommendations is by leveraging them as social proof as well, which is a tried and trusted way to improve conversion rates and also build trust with your customer base. And the way you can do that is with frequently also bought with recommendations. So if a customer often buys 2 items together. It's, associating those 2 items together, but also showing customers, we know that you might be interested in this because other shoppers like you are interested in this as well. And it kind of plays into that peer reviewing and, word of mouth recommendations, but you actually have a little bit more control over that process. And another fun tip is to personalize the product recommendation. So obviously there's a certain level of personalization that comes with all of these product recommendations, but to call attention to the fact that you have an understanding of a customer's purchasing history. So, hey, I know that you already purchased this. Maybe you would want this to complement it. So those are just a few of our favorite product recommendation tips. Again, I'll link in the description to our blog, which has over 20 product recommendation tips and more information that you can dig into. As a reminder, take or leave these as they work for your particular e-commerce site. And as a bonus tip and a recommendation that will, take very seriously is to always test your product recommendations across your site. So you should always be making data-backed decisions. What works for one e-commerce site might not work for another. So while these are some strategies and tactics you can try out for your e-commerce site, definitely test them, see if they work for your customers, and then iterate and improve on the experience. And the more times you do that, the better customer experience you'll build. And a higher functioning e-commerce website means more revenue. So thanks for watching today. I hope you learned a little bit about product recommendations and maybe have a few good takeaways for your own e-commerce brand. I'll again link in the description to that full-length article, and make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I love chatting with you, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.